Welcome to the fourth installment of our video series on using supported decision-making to advance employment outcomes for people with disabilities in Connecticut. I'm Jennifer Jenkins, Senior Advocate at Disability Rights Connecticut, and the parent of an 11-year-old son with intellectual and developmental disabilities. In this presentation, we're going to provide an overview of supported decision-making and the journey to employment in adulthood. As with previous videos, you will hear directly from people with disabilities and their family members about supported decision-making and the transition to employment in adulthood. If you are interested in learning more, you can find clips from our interviews and other resources on the supported decision-making page of our website at disrightsct.org/SDM. That's DISRIGHTSCT.org/SDM. In previous videos, we provided an overview of supported decision-making, or SDM, including some guiding principles and examples of how it can be used alone or along with other tools, such as powers of attorney and guardianship and conservatorship. We also shared information about informed choice and the components and principles that go into helping a person with a disability make well thought out and meaningful decisions about a career path with the support of others they trust. In our last video, we focused on practical steps students transitioning from high school can use to make informed choices about employment using supported decision-making. In this video, we will focus on the role of supported decision-making and informed choice and how they can play after high school, when an adult with a disability is interested in exploring competitive integrated employment, or CIE. We will discuss what this can look like for people throughout adulthood. This information may be especially useful to those seeking to move out of subminimum wage employment or day programs. We first introduced the term competitive integrated employment, or CIE, in our second video. Let's review its federal definition so we all know what we're talking about and why. Competitive means that an employee with a disability earns a similar wage and benefits as employees without disabilities that do the same work. In competitive workplaces, no one is stuck in an entry-level position just because they have a disability. Instead, every employee has the same chance to move forward in their career. Integrated means working at a location where the person is interacting with other people without disabilities to the same extent as employees without disabilities in comparable positions are. That means working with coworkers, customers, and suppliers with and without disabilities. The employment may be full-time or part-time. It may also include owning and running a business, known as self-employment. It often includes access to support services to navigate federal work incentives so the person can keep their benefits while they work. A person in CIE must make at least minimum wage, and CIE promotes an integrated workplace that makes accommodations for the needs of employees with disabilities, including by providing interpreters, technological supports, or other tools. Our first priority should be helping people with disabilities find employment opportunities in fully integrated work settings. As the state of Connecticut's Department of Developmental Services has recognized, integrated employment leads to better outcomes for people with disabilities than non-employment, segregated or facility-based employment, or dehabilitation, resulting in a more fulfilling professional life. Exploring an individual's preferences, abilities, and goals for employment should occur early and often, even for those working in sub-minimum wage employment or attending a day program. We all try different avenues of employment throughout our lives until we find something we want to turn into a job or a career. Sometimes people even start over later in life, doing something completely different. For those who have had little exposure to employment options or who have been working in sub-minimum wage employment, making an informed decision about pursuing CIE can be a long and involved process. All of us explore our options in different ways to find out what we like, don't like, can, and cannot do. Job exploration for individuals with disabilities should include education about different types of jobs through research, informational interviews, and job shadowing. Individuals may be referred to resources that can help them access employment services, like the American Job Centers, Bureau of Rehabilitation Services, or Department of Developmental Services. We will discuss these resources in more detail later in this video. Career counseling that is focused on an individual's interests and preferences is a crucial step toward a successful employment outcome. This counseling can come from vocational rehabilitation, developmental services, and other workforce development resources. Job exploration should also incorporate real-life examples from peers and families who have been through the process. Throughout the job exploration process, supporters such as parents, teachers, providers, and potential employers must imagine a successful employment outcome for the person they support. We cannot predetermine another person's capabilities or the areas of interest they will be drawn toward. Supporters must remain open to discovering new and different paths to competitive, integrated employment. Job exploration can and should have many components, as we've just discussed. You may remember Brian from our previous videos, a 50-year-old man with cerebral palsy and an intellectual disability, who spent many years working in a segregated facility doing repetitive tasks for sub-minimum wage. Job exploration certainly hasn't been a straightforward, linear process for Brian. He had few employment experiences outside of what was offered at the facility. As he continued to advocate for a job in the security field, he discovered the supports and services that were available to him. Working with a professional and utilizing the services of customized employment, Brian has been exploring the types of jobs he wants to do. Brian will be the first to admit that the process isn't quick and easy. But for him, learning about what options exist, the pros and cons of different jobs, and then observing and experiencing those jobs are key parts of a job exploration process that is being guided by Brian. Brian is using his supporters to navigate the process, explore jobs, and make decisions that will benefit him. We are going to hear a bit from Nick now about how his mom, as his supporter, helped him think through what kind of job would best suit his personality and strengths. You may remember Nick from our previous videos. He's a 22-year-old individual with an intellectual disability who now works at the Connecticut Department of Veteran Affairs. He talks in this video about how his mom helped him identify that he is a people person and that he shouldn't be in a job where he is isolated, but instead should find a job that allows him to be around people. Supporters can and should help the people that they support think through what employment environments they would thrive in as part of the career exploration process. Let's listen in to Nick.
We compromise, like we communicate well. So I asked her what would be a good job for me that I really like, and then we come together and come to realize maybe this particular job would be perfect, because I know a lot of other stuff would be throughout college, which would not be perfect. But the one area, if it's through the working in a kitchen or like working around people, it 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 comes to a point like I am a people person, and we all love making people smile, making people happy, and like making sure they're getting the right things, and just making sure they're healthy.
What happens after a person with a disability decides to transition to competitive integrated employment? The next step likely involves considering employment support options. There are various levels of support available for individuals with disabilities seeking to start or transition to CIE. It's important to recognize that people with disabilities have diverse skills and abilities, and they should have access to meaningful employment opportunities. Some individuals might secure and keep a job in the competitive job market without ongoing support, or they may only need minor accommodations to perform their job duties effectively. Others may need more intensive supports or accommodations. Supporters can assist an individual in determining the level of employment support they'll need and learning how to request a reasonable accommodation under federal and state law. They can help research which accommodations might be appropriate and help an individual decide when to make this request. We'll talk about accommodations more later on in this video. There are several types of employment support options that account for differences in how much support an individual needs. There's independent employment, supported employment, and customized employment. Introduced in 2024, the Department of Developmental Services also offers two services called Employment Exploration Options and Employment Enrichment Services. Let's learn more about these options. First, there is independent employment. Independent employment involves using existing relationships and resources within the workplace to help employees with disabilities succeed. Often referred to as natural supports, these relationships and resources can include coworkers, supervisors, mentors, and others who offer help and guidance in the workplace. Let's see an example of this in practice. In this video, we will hear from Nick about how he uses natural supports in his job. Nick talks about how if he is unsure about a task at work, he'll ask his other coworkers or his supervisors what to do.
Sometimes I get help sometimes I get help from my mom, but I other times I do it like on my own. But if there was if I was unsure about something, like I can just definitely go to to another employee, and maybe they can still show me how to do this new task, and just learning from them, it really would benefit a lot, because a lot of people they always need to ask for help. So if I was unsure, just definitely just I can always just ask. Anyway, if it's other employer, they can still show me though, like what to do. Like, okay, let me show you what to do. So, and blah blah blah, and then like and just like it like if I wasn't unsure, like at the VA, if I wasn't unsure about a new task, I could just definitely ask my supervisors.
Encouraging the development of natural supports can enhance job satisfaction, increase retention rates, and promote a sense of community within the organization. From the employer's perspective, promoting natural supports in the workplace shows a commitment to inclusivity and empowers employees with disabilities to reach their full potential. Next, there is supported employment, which offers some level of state-funded support to people with disabilities working in integrated settings. Supported employment aims to help people with disabilities become more self-sufficient in their employment roles while receiving the necessary support to thrive in the workplace. Service providers, funded through a state agency, provide the support, which can include job coaching, help with daily tasks, and assistance with navigating workplace challenges. Let's see an example of supported employment in practice. You might remember Dylan from our welcome video and other videos in this series. Dylan is a 25-year-old with an intellectual disability who works at Good Cause Gifts. In this video clip, Dylan talks about how his job coach helps him throughout his workday.
I guess I use a um, job coach sometimes is to where to put things like downstairs and stuff because they'll want it like a certain way and stuff and that could be more organized that way too and stuff because we just don't want to like just put it anywhere and stuff too. Have to look at what it is and we have to like put it like in the right area or the right spot too.
Additionally, there is customized employment. This approach involves tailoring job responsibilities and tasks to match the unique skills and abilities of the person with a disability. Employers collaborate with the individual to create a job description that aligns with their strengths, interests, and support needs, while fulfilling an unmet need in the workplace. Customized employment fosters a mutually beneficial relationship between employer and employee by presuming that every person has something valuable to contribute to the workplace. Back to Brian's experience in his ongoing employment search. Brian is using customized employment as he pursues his interest in entering the security field. As we mentioned, job exploration is one part of the process for him. Then, when a potential match is found, Brian's job coach will work with Brian and the potential employer to customize a job to match Brian's strengths and interest with the needs of the business. Brian loves people and loves interacting with them. Combining these interests with his attention to detail led to one opportunity of customizing a security position to include checking and monitoring hallways and checking identifications. Brian will be able to fulfill these critical components of a security job and meet the needs of this potential employer. That's customized employment. Introduced in 2024, DDS has rolled out 2 employment services for eligible Connecticut residents with intellectual disabilities. One is called Employment Exploration Options, or EEO. EEO is for adults with intellectual disabilities who receive day supports and are not employed, but want to explore opportunities to work. EEO discovery and exploration activities can include people learning about themselves, about the kind of work they might want to do, and about different careers and employment sectors. EEO activities should also include opportunities for real life and hands-on work experiences. The other new DDS employment support service is called Employment Enrichment Services, or EES. EES is for adults with intellectual disabilities who are already employed at least part-time, but who want to do more employment-related activities. EES helps people work on ways to keep the jobs they want, continue skill building, or plan for career development and upward mobility. EEO can include identifying additional career opportunities and transitioning to competitive integrated employment based on the person's informed choice. You can learn more about EEO and EES services by contacting your DDS case manager or day provider. A number of resources are available in Connecticut to help residents with disabilities find and keep jobs and to receive the employment support they may want and need. Since every agency has a different name, it can be hard to keep track of all the acronyms that service providers and coordinators sometimes use. This slide lists some key agencies. People with disabilities may need help from their supporters in figuring out how to access different services and deciding which services are best for them. Supporters can help individuals in both making choices that align with their goals and in navigating these resources and agencies. American Job Centers, or AJCs in Connecticut, are open to all residents, even those without disabilities. They offer assistance with job searching and resume writing, and even have training programs and funding to support that training. There are 6 full service and 14 smaller centers around the state so that everyone can find one in their area. You can learn more about AJCs on the Connecticut Department of Labor's website. The Bureau of Rehabilitation Services, or BRS, serves people who have any kind of a disability that makes it difficult to find or keep a job. There's also a vocational rehabilitation division of the Bureau of Education and Services for the Blind, or BESB, sometimes referred to as BESB, for people who are legally blind. Vocational rehabilitation can be a useful tool to access employment support options that may not otherwise be available. BRS and BESB may also fund post-secondary education and training. The first step for adults with disabilities who are out of high school and who are interested in working with BRS or BESB is to complete an application. You can find a link to request that application on the supported decision-making page of DRCT's website. People who are found eligible will be connected with a BRS counselor who will help them develop an individualized plan for employment, or IPE, which outlines the services BRS or BESB will provide them. Under a grant running through September of 2027, BRS also leads an initiative called Connecticut Pathways to Integrated Employment, or CTPI. It helps eligible youth and adults with intellectual and developmental disabilities access competitive integrated employment. The Department of Developmental Services, or DDS, offers long-term support to individuals with intellectual disabilities. DDS can provide job coaching for supported employment opportunities. Supports are either available long-term or can be faded out once an individual masters the job tasks. If a new task is assigned, job coaching services can be restarted to assist with the systematic instruction of new tasks. People can apply for these DDS services by filling out an application form from the DDS website. People of all ages can apply, but the application requires, among other things, documentation that the person's intellectual disability existed before the age of 18. Employment support services are also available through the Department of Mental Health and Addiction Services, or DMAS, or the Department of Social Services, or DSS, for individuals with other types of disabilities, such as serious mental health diagnoses, brain injury, and autism when the individual does not also have an intellectual disability. For people with brain injuries or autism, these services, like some DDS services, are available under programs often referred to as waivers, which are funded by Medicaid and have specific eligibility requirements. We encourage people seeking employment to apply for all the waivers that they may be eligible for. However, you should keep in mind that some waivers, including the autism waiver, currently have lengthy waiting lists for services. In considering employment options, please also keep in mind that a person with a disability can be eligible for services funded by more than one of these state agencies. For example, a person who's eligible for or receiving services from DDS or DMHAS can still apply and be eligible for assistance from BRS too. That's an important point for supporters to know, as they help people use supported decision making to learn about all of their options and navigate these various agencies and service systems. You may encounter barriers in accessing and using these resources. Not every path towards employment is straightforward, and that's okay. Emma, from our previous videos and our welcome video, is a 27-year-old woman with autism who's looking for work. Emma talks about how she used services from the Bureau of Rehabilitation Services and had several trial work experiences to determine what kind of job would be the right fit for her. Emma learned that it was very important that she advocate for her needs and that she receive structured feedback after her trial work experiences so that she could know what worked well and what she would have to improve upon. What's important to remember is that when challenges arise in work settings, supporters can be useful in helping a person identify ways to overcome those barriers and get the supports and accommodations the person needs in place. You will hear more from Emma later on. And if you are interested in watching an extended version of her story, you can visit our website to watch her video. Under the Americans with Disabilities Act, or the ADA, individuals with disabilities are entitled to reasonable accommodations or modifications in employment, public services, and state and local government. For programs that receive federal financial assistance, such as vocational rehabilitation, Medicaid, and Medicaid waiver funding, Section 504 of the Rehabilitation Act also protects a person's right to reasonable modifications. A reasonable accommodation or modification is any change or adjustment in how a job is done or how services are provided that allows a qualified individual with a disability equal access to perform a task or participate in a service. You may remember Antonio from earlier in our series. He is a 20-year-old man with an intellectual disability who works 3 jobs. Antonio's speech articulation can be challenging for others to understand, and he had difficulty placing orders for the deli in his job at Price Chopper. His mother, Mary, helped him advocate for an accommodation so that he could use a computer to type in and log deli orders. That accommodation let him continue to do his job efficiently and effectively. You can hear more from Antonio by watching his video on our website. But accommodations are not just for use after an individual finds a job. In fact, accommodations are essential to helping people access employment services in the most individualized way possible. Individuals can ask for accommodations at any time and related to any part of their employment services from any of the agencies we discussed in the previous slide. Supported decision-making can also be viewed as a reasonable accommodation for people with disabilities. In a final federal rulemaking issued in 2024, the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services specifically recognized supported decision-making as an example of a reasonable modification in policies, practices, or procedures that may be necessary to avoid unlawful disability-based discrimination under Section 504 of the Rehabilitation Act. Those federal regulations apply to programs and activities that receive federal financial assistance, including vocational rehabilitation, Medicaid, and Medicaid waiver programs. This means that the right of a person with a disability to use supported decision-making can be enforced under federal law. In exploring competitive integrated employment, supported decision-making can be used as an accommodation if a person with a disability requires assistance from trusted supporters to learn about options, access services, and make decisions about what path to choose. Supporters should ensure that decisions are focused on the individual's desires and interests. Supporters can reinforce that an individual's voice should be heard and is, in fact, the loudest voice at the table. We've seen examples throughout this video series about how supporters can help people with disabilities navigate employment settings. From Antonio's mother, Mary's advocacy to get him the accommodations he needed to do his job effectively, to Emma's mother, Pam's advocacy to develop techniques and tips so that Emma could be more effective in her trial work experience, supported decision-making can be an important accommodation to ensure people with disabilities are able to be successful at work. As we have discussed, the process of finding and maintaining competitive integrated employment often requires making many decisions along the way. Supported decision-making can play a key role in the employment process. Having more than one supporter can help people with disabilities form a well-rounded and informed view that includes the input of multiple perspectives. It is also important for people who may rely on public benefits to learn how going to work can impact those benefits, and they may need help from supporters to do that. Too often, Social Security beneficiaries are apprehensive about or discouraged from going to work because of the misconception that earning any money will cause them to abruptly lose state and federal benefits and be left without a way to support themselves. However, there are special federal rules that can prevent that from happening. Supporters can help beneficiaries access existing Social Security resources, meet with benefits counselors, and avoid substantial overpayments. Supporters can assist beneficiaries in accessing benefits counseling through the Connect to Work project run by BRS and the Department of Aging and Disability Services, or through a Ticket to Work employment network that provides such services. If you or someone you support has questions about how to access benefits counseling, please contact us at DRCT. The road to competitive integrated employment can be full of bumps, curves, and detours. Remaining open to learning from failure is essential to managing those obstacles. Every time we're not successful at a job, we learn something about our strengths, interests, and preferences. When people with disabilities and their supporters have the attitude that mistakes help all of us learn, then failures turn into experience, and the journey towards employment can continue. Long-term employment is also a process with possible interruptions. Many people experience changes in their environments or circumstances that require adjustments in employment. For example, many people have trouble when there's a change in management in the workplace. Supporters can help individuals advocate for themselves by understanding how to inform new staff of their accommodations, replace or augment paid or natural supports if needed, and demonstrate their value to the employer. Other changes that supporters can help an individual navigate include trying out new job tasks, working more hours, getting a promotion, or even moving on to another position. Through all of these transitions, people with disabilities have the option to return to agencies like BRS, DDS, DMHAS, and others for help. These agencies can offer services such as additional training or certifications to facilitate the maintenance of their current position or help them advance their employment goals. You may remember Emma from earlier in our video series. Emma is still searching for the right job for her and has some great advice for people with disabilities who are thinking about going to work. Let's listen in.
I want to tell them that there is something out there for them. They just have to keep looking and maybe look for connections, try looking for things that that gives you a passion. Just don't stop searching. And there is an end to the search summer, even if it takes years.
Now that you know how SDM can expand access to competitive integrated employment, let's discuss some practical tips for making sure it happens. First, SDM and informed choice should be seen as an ongoing process where choices are periodically and regularly revisited. This is the advantage of having multiple supporters and multiple perspectives. Supporters may offer a perspective that the individual hadn't thought of before, or an individual may change their mind about a prior decision based on their experiences over time. Spending time helping the person with a disability to build a community of supporters around them is important. Connections to other people in the community strengthen access to information, opportunity, and protection. The more people who know the individual, the more people who are looking out for their well-being. We know that people keep people safe. Individuals with disabilities who have a broad community of connections are more successful, have more autonomy, and are less likely to be subject to abuse or neglect by others. It is critical that supporters and people with disabilities know how to respond to and handle those who are negative and try to discourage an individual from pursuing their wishes and goals. It may not be easy, so having a solid background on the individual's rights and the resources available to them can help with advocacy and lend credibility to any request. In that advocacy, remember that the right of a person with a disability to use supported decision-making can be enforced as a reasonable accommodation under federal law. That legal backing is another tool in your toolbox when you are supporting people with disabilities in making informed choices and overcoming barriers to competitive integrated employment. Additionally, as we shared in our first video, SDM has been formally recognized as an option in Connecticut law, which can also help you in enforcing the rights of people with disabilities to make decisions about employment options with the support of others they trust. People face many challenges in life, and making decisions can be one of them. Decision-making isn't always easy, and using SDM can help someone through these challenges while keeping them at the center of their own decisions. We hope you found the information we've provided useful in navigating the journey to employment during adulthood. You can find helpful resources and links to learn more about supported decision-making on our website at disrightsct.org/SDM. That's disrightsct.org/SDM. Or on the Connecticut Supported Decision-Making Coalition's webpage at ctsilc.org/supported-decision-making. This presentation was developed in collaboration with the Center for Public Representation. Please visit their websites at supporteddecisions.org and centerforpublicrep.org. Thank you again for joining us today. Social Security funded the creation of this presentation under a grant. Although Social Security reviewed this presentation for accuracy, it does not constitute an official Social Security communication. This communication is printed, published, or produced and disseminated at U.S. taxpayer expense.